And we're back on another exciting episode of Starfleet Boy, where we have a casual and informal conversation about Star Trek. Today we're talking about Star Trek, the original series episode, Dagger of the Mind. And I'm joined by my illustrious guests today. Yay! Fathery from Text Trek, Gary from Trekker Prize, and our newest addition, Earl Grey Trekkie, aka Robbie. We know you as Robbie as well, but Earl Grey Trekkie from Twitter.
Say something.
Twitter. That's your cue, Robbie.
You can hit me up on Twitter, where I talk about Star Trek quite a lot.
It's true. You have great insights into Star Trek, so we're excited to hear what you have to say today on here. Are you going to ever start a YouTube? Do you think you'll do one?
I don't know. I'm not sure yet.
All right. Well, you got 3 YouTubers here to help you out.
You're all great.
I'm barely doing YouTube these days.
You're all fantastic.
You can inherit. You're actually the youngest person that's ever been on Starfleet Boy. Actually, not true. There was a younger person than you that was on Starfleet Boy for a TNG episode, my goddaughter. But you're the official youngest person, so you're actually the real Starfleet Boy in a sense today. So if you want, I will hand you.
He's the next generation.
You're the next generation. It's awesome.
Starfleet Boy, the next generation.
It's so cool. So you're welcome to be the Starfleet Boy today, and I'll be the Starfleet guy.
No, I can't live up to you.
Flattery will get you everywhere. Well, welcome. We are also expecting Emma and the Doctor, but they're running late, so I'm not sure when they'll hop onto the stream. But you know the format, so the audience is already here. We've got a couple people watching, so I just wanted to say hello to Immortal
Treknik. That's an awesome name, man. I like it.
Starfleet Boy is somehow in the audience as well. Daniel Seo. No, wait. Did I say it right? Seo. Yes, thank you. Daniel Seo is here. And we just found out, Daniel, I guess since you put it in the chat, it's okay to talk about it, but you're at your job and you're having struggles because you're trying to watch Starfleet Boy as well. It's okay. We forgive you. You can watch us in the replay.
Buffer time from Star Trek Lower Decks.
It's true. It's the buffer time. You can watch us on the buffer time. But we appreciate you coming to the comments, and I'll try to remember your rating. Well, we'll just go ahead and say it. So Daniel gives this high marks, 8.5 neural neutralizers. Very cool. Robbie, since you're new, I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you want to do the episode summary? That's what we always do on Starfleet.
Okay.
Yes.
In this episode, well, I suppose a prisoner escapes this medical facility where people are being thoughts are being put into their heads by this medical facility, and he escapes, and the Enterprise, Kirk beams down to check everything's okay, because they don't get many visitors, and they find out that something's a bit wrong. These people are being tortured in a sense.
It's really heavy. You nailed it. That's a really good episode summary. Basically, I didn't realize when I watched this episode. Good job on the summary, by the way. When I watched this episode, he said that prison reform, the way that we think of the Federation having everything so wonderful, is only the last 20 years. In the last 20 years, they made leaps and bounds that have surpassed the last 40. He says 40 centuries, Kirk. I think he might have been hyperbolizing.
I think that was Spock. Spock said you celebrate violence for 40 centuries, and now you imprison men who do it privately. or something like that.
I think something that effect, but that was the most fascinating thing about this episode was that,
4,000 years. That's kind of a, I don't know. I guess that's like that's like kind of the span of human history that you would have like warfare and like mass violence, I guess.
I guess it's true, but it's just surprising that, like, to me, thinking of Star Trek and like having lived with the Next Generation and like, like you had this idea of like even, and I guess even Enterprise kind of portrays like a kinder, gentler, like humanity, right? Like, doesn't it already? So it just, it's like, it's weird, I guess, that I kind of overwrote this fact that for only like during Discovery, prison, penal colonies were still like awful. They weren't like the farm on Lower Decks.
I don't know if they're awful. I mean, like, I'm sure they're leaps and bounds better today, especially in our country, Starfleet boy. Without going too political with that, but like, we have like a pretty horrific criminal justice system. Some other countries, like I'll just use like say like the Scandinavian, like Norway and Sweden they're more geared towards rehabilitation and making people not be like repeat criminals, making them be like rehabilitated into positive contributors to society. And it looks like we have a couple more joining the crew, Starfleet boy.
Yeah, I see that. Emma and Humbert are here. Welcome.
Hello.
I don't know how much of it you heard, but we got really deep right off the bat. Hello.
It's a deep episode.
Robbie, meet Emma and Humbert.
Hello.
Nice to meet
Hello.
Nice to meet you too.
We were already talking about like how penal colonies were only reformed in the last 20 years in Star Trek continuity, according to Captain Kirk, which is really surprising. I had it like totally different in my headcanon.
It really sucks.
I wonder what Kirk would think of a farm.
It's like a dream. It's true. I think it's quite awesome that we synchronized with the episode of Lower Decks with a concept of like some sort of rehabilitation facility. I agree with everything you said, Fathery, and that's certainly what we see by the TNG era is that like there's an emphasis on rehabilitation. But there is that really good episode where those like super soldiers take over the Enterprise and James Cromwell is like their leader.
James Cromwell?
Yeah.
And he's talking about Next Generation episode.
On TNG.
Okay. I was like...
Yeah, I was like, what are you mixing together?
I'm all over the place.
I'm glad I was the only one confused. Okay.
All right. Alexandra's here, and she's lurking. Unlikely she'll have anything to contribute. LOL. That's fine. We are so pleased that you enjoy listening to our discussion. Caleb Richardson says, as someone who has been inside a mental health facility as a patient and witnessed corruption and abuse firsthand, this episode hit hard. I know this is more of a prison metaphor, but regardless, no, I think that's very apt and correct. And heavy, Caleb. But we hope you're better now. Oh, is this true? Russia has laid claim to Venus. Wow, we're getting like lots of.
That's random.
It's interesting. We claim Venus.
Well, they did land on it before anyone else. They put a probe.
Right?
They put a probe on it in like 72.
60s. Oh, 70.
It might have been before 72. It was a long time ago.
Yeah. So they're responsible for seeding life on Venus, possibly with bacteria or something like that.
Yeah, because now we're detecting signs of basically bacteria poop in the atmosphere of Venus.
Yay!
So we're like, oh, there might be something alive there.
Just like the prison system reform, in 20 years, Venus is like thriving with bacterial life. Who knows what's going to happen?
We're going to terraform it.
Doctor Who's right. The Venetians are real.
Venetian Aikido, yeah.
It's true. All right, we went on a real big
yeah. Let's get back to the episode. Emma and I, we actually we visited a prison about, was it 2 years ago?
Yeah.
We organized a field trip because we we donated some books from the library I work at, and we did a field trip where the kids donated the books, discarded books, to a prison facility that's way out there, further than where you live, Sahel. You live pretty far out. This prison facility.
These are the moments the audience has no idea where you're talking about, because
Right.
someone randomly tuning in is like, where?
Yeah. But it's pretty isolated out there.
It is. I live in a farm.
Yeah, and
We don't want to dox Sohail.
yeah, and whatchamacallit? Yeah, it was quite an eye-opening experience. I mean, everybody there was. I mean, everybody we got to speak to and meet was very focused on making their lives better. I thought, and one of the things that struck me when watching this episode is I thought it was just really, I mean, for 1960 something, the way Kirk was speaking about prisons and how much he admired this doctor for his reforms, I just thought it was extremely progressive. Because, you know, at least in the American system, for the last 30 years or so, you know, it's very focused on incarceration and punishment. And there's not a lot of resources that go towards rehabilitation. And I was kind of surprised to see that in you know, in the episode. And I was just wondering how progressive was, you know, like what were they tuning into when they wrote the episode? Like, you know, what was going through the like, what was the writer exposed to? You know, because I thought it's a very
huge. If I recall my history correctly, there was a huge kind of crisis in this country of mental health, and perhaps sorry if this is boring you international folks, but there's a crisis of mental health in this country, and our mental health facilities, you know, we're kind of like in a shambles. There was the film One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest kind of, for me, is illustrative of that era of you know, of that I'm speaking of, and a lot of mental institutions were shut down, and then we have a new crisis.
That was in the 80s, right?
Yeah, and then that's a different crisis. But at the time that this episode took place, I think it was part of an effort to bring to light that both the prison system and the rehabilitation system in the United States is not as good as it could, you know, as it could be.
There has been too much of an overlap between our criminal justice system, which is like not great, but addressing things that should, with mental health, which should be addressed by our healthcare system, which is also not great.
Yeah, supposedly in this country, you know, in theory, our prison system is the biggest provider of mental health. Although there definitely are not enough resources. I've seen some documentaries, you know, about people who try to be a psychologist for all those people, but they have literally hundreds or thousands of patients, and it's not possible to actually give them care other than prescribing medications. So, yeah, a lot of people in our prisons should be in mental health facilities or getting mental health care, but also, you know, those mental health facilities aren't really up to where we should be.
Yeah,
in this country at this time either.
At least that's the perception of this. At least that's the perception of this panel on mental health here on Starfleet Foot. No,
I haven't.
But go ahead, Gary.
So the funny thing is, I noticed then it just comes back to Kirk's remark that, yeah, I've been in a prison facility before. I know how this works. I think he was a bit too confident with his statement. He's like, he's like, okay, I've been in one. All of the other ones should be the same, and he kind of dismisses the fact that, you know, what Bones pointed out, that hey, something else might have been going on there, so we should going down. And he was a bit too confident in his statement. I found it a bit strange. I'm not sure how did you guys feel about that, but I kind of.
He didn't even want to go down. He didn't even want to go.
Yeah.
He's like, there's nothing to see here.
Yeah,
Bones.
like what I'm gonna do there, like it's just gonna be a real
Bones had to force him into it. Bones had to force Kirk's hand because because
Dr.
Bones
Adams
filed it.
is famous, like, and he's seen as a saint by from the way Kirk is talking about him.
Yeah.
He's seen as like a real saint of a person. Like, oh my God, he's like,
fan.
And
Yeah,
then,
like,
that brings up, and that also brings up more problems in the society as well, because if the captain, in captain's level, you see a person like this, that I'm not saying that every doctor would be evil or something in the end, but it kind of, gives them person with a bad intention space to work on things that they shouldn't be working on. And if the captain sees it this way, and then probably in higher levels, higher grounds, they probably have the same philosophy about the same person. I'm not sure
Sean
if
and
I'm
I.
making any sense.
Oh
Makes total sense.
yeah.
Sean and I like to lovingly call Captain Pike Captain Federation because he's so like into the Federation. I think Captain Kirk is like the successor. He's like a Captain Federation too, and I thought that scene really like kind of highlighted like that kind of a naivety that you have when you fully trust the system you're in, which is what like Kirk seems to be in there. He's just like, what are you talking about? Like, why do we have like Bones? Why do you even have a concern? Everything's just fine. And I thought that was a really interesting note as well. And a beautiful scene. And Spock has to. This is kind of like the beginning of their dynamic. This is the first time I can think of in our rewatch so far where they're like interacting quite in this way where they both have to turn to Kirk and Bones are arguing and they have to both turn to Spock to kind of get like a third person. He's like, why don't you just ask the director if he even wants the doctor back, and that was an interesting scene. I also liked about that whole thing about Captain Kirk being so naive is that like this is like a wake-up call for him, and this is where episodic television kind of fails. Like, I don't know if this will be something that matters after this episode. There's a lot of great like heavy things that they present here, but then of course we don't see the follow-ups about it. I don't know what you guys think about that.
I think in terms of his personality, you probably can see the evolution that in later episodes, and don't ask me episode titles or scenarios because I don't recall them as well as I did before, but certainly coming back to the movies, you can definitely feel that Kirk is more is not as naive as he was in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when it comes to the Klingons. Like, I know this is a bit far-fetched because he always had a sweet spot for the Klingons, but
I wrote in my notes that oddly Cybok is a live version of this machine. That's what he does, is he takes away your bad. No, it's true. He takes away your bad memories, and I think it's evocative because Kirk is like, no, I need my pain, and he knows firsthand from this episode that he needs his pain. Like, he needs his memories. He wants the bad experiences just as much as the good experiences to follow him on the journey. And I think that was for me the biggest like wow connection that I saw. I don't know. What do you you're like, no.
Wow. That's a big
I have not thought about that.
I think it bears discussion just what exactly the nature of this machine is and the research that this guy's doing. Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong. So basically this guy, this machine, the neural neutralizer? Neural neutralizer. Okay, the neural neutralizer. The effects of the neural neutralizer, it would have to constantly renew the effects of it, right? On the people who
frequent treatments.
The treatments.
It's not reliable 100% because you saw Dr. Van Gelder goes completely like insane from his experience, and he's remembering like these like kind of particle things, but
he's actively fighting it.
He's actively fighting it, but it doesn't seem to hold on Kirk like as strongly. Even I feel like there is a component of like will that like can override its effects, or maybe Dr. Van Gelder was just exposed to it so long that he finally like gave into it. But that's what but Cybok kind of convinces you to do that willingly, right? He's like, give me your pain, like,
But he
show
does it
me
in a
your...
manipulative way, because then like
Yeah.
he does it in a way to get you to follow him, and
But that's what
It-
Dr. Adams is doing. He's trying to make you kind of follow him
But
as
you
well.
don't forget the pain, though. I feel like this machine is making you actually block it, correct?
Well, what this machine does is the ideal way. In the beginning, Dr. Adams says what we try to do, because Lethe, by the way, which is a Star Trek Discovery interesting Star Trek Discovery connection that I don't think we ever got the answer to. But Lethe, that character, she's like a successful recipient of this therapy, and what he says is that what they do, it's very creepy, is that like they remove all your, like, whatever. Let's say Lethe she said she was very selfish and like very like unkind. She was like an awful person, right? And what Dr. Adams did was he removed all of those experiences and memories of her past, and then reconditioned or reprogrammed her to be a nice person, like a compliant person, a very like attentive, the opposite of what she was. And so he said, so like, that's what I thought was like really disturbing. And the horror element of this is that, and why Kirk is like, that's great. Like, I mean, like, because he's lived a charmed life, right? Like, he was all books and legs at the academy, and he like, had like a nice, time in the Federation. But whatever Lethe's experiences were, they were like horrible, and now they're completely erased. So he can only imagine filling your head with good experiences is a great idea, but it's actually not. You have to have your negative.
Kirk was a little, I mean, he was suspicious once he got down there. I mean, he was talking to the, especially to the guy who was operating the controls.
Yeah, because he wanted to investigate the machine more. Because
Right.
Dr. Adams is like, oh, this thing, it was just an experiment that doesn't work. Pay it no mind. And
right.
we got to talk about Dr. Helen Noel at some point. But
Yes.
she was like, yeah, let's just move along then. And then Kirk was like, I want to look at it. And she was like, well, he brought me to advise you, and I'm advising you we shouldn't look at it. And he's like, that's the perk of being a captain, is that I don't always have to listen when people advise me.
I love that scene.
Like that. Yeah, dude, that was a flex. That was a power. He was flexing.
I didn't like, what was it that the doctor said to Dr. Noel, like, that was kind of condescending right after that scene?
Oh, you're fighting above your weight class.
I guess it's okay. I didn't hear it quite like that. It is kind of funny.
Like, it's a boxing analogy.
Yeah, a boxing analogy. When I heard it on the episode, it sounded like he was being like, "Rrr, rrr."
Like back to the kitchen, like shut up and let the men talk.
I was really surprised. I actually have a question for all of you. What did you think? Did everyone here watch the remastered version of this episode?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved the planet stuff and the facility. What did you guys think of it? Like, just from the special effects perspective.
Yeah, I think it looked great.
Yeah, the exteriors was cool. I mean, I think I remember.
I like that
saw it, I
high
was like,
speed like drop elevator.
Oh, that was kind of cheesy though.
That was
They just
just
like
they're like
them
hug.
Yeah, like
That was just in there to establish some of like the sexual tension between them.
When I
that
was
was
a
cheesy.
When I first
It
saw
was.
this when I was a kid, what were you gonna say, Robbie? Sorry.
And then Kirk grabs onto Dr. Helen, which is a bit dated.
Yeah, a bit. Yeah.
Oh,
I saw it when I was a kid, and I always thought that was like him holding her to protect her. But now I see it as him being scared, and he got like his reaction was to like jump into her arms. But maybe I'm being a little too revisionist there. Look at the doctor laughing. He's like, wow.
I think it's just him being a creep.
No.
Well, she clearly likes
Wanted
him.
her.
She liked him more than he liked her.
And may I just say that she's a bit of a creep? Can we talk about the Christmas
Yeah.
party, guys? I want to know about the Christmas.
Oh,
That's
I need
so
to
weird.
ask.
I have a lot of questions about.
this-
the
was
Christmas
that a
party.
Secret Santa?
Is this the only instance of Christmas on Star Trek?
Star Trek
I think-
Generations. Star Trek Generations.
Yeah.
Picard had a
No, but I mean in
Family
the original
Christmas.
show. In the original show,
yeah.
I think
it is
so.
right.
We had Thanksgiving and Charlie X, and then we get Christmas in Dagger of the Mind.
Right.
Oh, it's
Okay, that's
cool
what I
that, like,
thought.
You could kind of say that you could kind of see the progression of time by the holidays that they're celebrating. That's interesting. Although there is a Stardate version that I'm dying to dive into that Brian Swift from your channel fame, Fathery, sent me, and so I can't wait to see. He has a Stardate order like with a few corrections, original series watch list.
Yeah, I still recommend watching in the production order because that's what Michael and Denise Okuda taught me when I was a little boy reading the Star Trek Encyclopedia.
Very good.
Yes,
You're a very
indeed.
good student. We have quite a few people in the audience. Welcome, audience. Let's go to the comments. Howdy, all stress-free K's here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. If you're here, this is a good time to remind everyone to please gently press the like button as
You can't
we should
smash it.
you can't.
Can
Someone
we
said,
do that from our side as well, or is it too cheesy to do?
yeah. Someone said no. Anyway, everyone like
Anyway,
the like button.
5 is
'Cause
watching.
It
And we
confounds.
don't count as 5, right?
Oh wait, are you guys all on the stream or the other? No, there's more people in the chat than there are than there are. Oh, I don't know. It might all of you might be in the stream. Who cares? It doesn't matter.
I just
never
logged in. I'm
watch.
watching at the same time as well.
I never do that. I never open it in a different tab.
I don't either. I don't do it either.
No, I
I'm
closed it too.
actually I'm
'Cause I don't
actually
want to waste
considering
bandwidth.
starting a podcast called The Pike Philosophy, taking a modern problems and putting them through the lens of what would Pike do. I like that.
Yeah.
You should start Caleb, are you on Twitter? I can't find you. I know you're somewhere. Holla.
And you should
Yeah,
definitely
go-
do it if you're still listening.
Caleb, go make that Pike Philosophy Twitter handle right now.
Like right
before someone
now,
else
yeah.
Right
takes
now,
it.
before someone else takes
Yeah,
it.
like do it today.
Yeah,
And
right
minute.
this minute.
you
Within
should
2
totally
minutes.
get that podcast. You should do that. I encourage and support that idea.
I'm surprised that Christmas is still celebrated, not because of the fact that it started as a religious holiday, given it's become more secular over time, but more so it has had ties to capitalism. Interesting.
I think
I
you
think
can
because
do you can do a post-capitalist Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were
Yeah, for
pre-capitalist Christmases too.
Yes. Yeah, I feel. Yeah. That's guys.
Robbie, I
what-
think you were going to say something.
oh, go ahead.
I think because it's become so popular and loved over time, people don't want to stop doing it, really.
Yeah, it's
They
a human
celebrated on
tradition.
Doctor Who. The Doctor
Yeah.
celebrates Christmas, and he's an alien.
It's a
Every
really
year.
nice time with the family to have a good time.
It's true. It is very tied to Christianity, though, so I can see what Caleb means, because Star Trek has always
Yeah.
kind of been known to shy away from standing or highlighting any one specific religion unless it's a fictitious religion. I guess that comes later. At this point in the show, they just thought Christmas was going to be ubiquitous. As a matter of fact, I recall there's a chapel aboard the Enterprise too, so it is
Yeah.
interesting how much Christianity plays a part in this Star Trek. Very
But
good.
these are all the early episodes. Like
Right.
they back off later.
It'll be cool to note and see where the change happens. I wonder when that occurs.
There is an original series episode. I don't remember which episode it is, but it's one with like the Romans and
Oh,
You're
thinking of
Bread
Roman
and
circuses.
circuses.
yeah, and it ends with like Nichelle Nichols, like I don't know. I think like Kirk says like, oh, I thought we thought like sun gods were like inferior, is like something he says, and then O'Hara's like, oh no, what they mean is the sun, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
So that was very Christian centric.
The Roman
Off-putting for me to see it now. I mean,
the Roman Empire would lead into the rise of
So weird,
Christianity.
Right.
so that
Came
was
by
a
to
very
say hello.
that was a very Christian centric ending to one
Interesting.
episode.
Well, I mean,
There is
Captain
an original.
Picard's Nexus stream is a Christmas fairy tale, which I love. That's one of my favorite scenes.
With all those little kids going, Papa, Papa!
Yes, that's like my dream come true.
A dream to some, a nightmare to others.
Yeah.
Call back
That's my like worst nightmare, that all my like illegitimate children find me someday and they're like, Papa, Papa, come give me a Christmas gift.
Oh, wow.
It's a nightmare fuel for Picard.
Yeah, right. Guys, this is the first instance of the mind meld, right?
I wrote that
Yes.
down. Very good.
And
yes.
the nerve pinch.
And the nerve
on
pinch.
shoulder.
Yes. We get a lot of
both
Vulcan.
things that were like
Wait,
late
he used-
additions to the script.
He used the nerve, but according to air date, he uses the nerve pinch on duplicate Kirk. So that's
Yeah, but
interesting.
they shot this one first, I think.
I know. Okay, fine.
Right.
The script called for Spock to do a judo chop. Oops, I hit my microphone. Sorry. To do a judo chop to Van Gilder to knock him out, and Nimoy thought that Spock would have something like a little bit more intellectual way to like subdue an opponent, and so he created the nerve pinch. And the idea of the mind meld, originally they were going to have Spock do some form of hypnosis to hypnotize Van Gilder. And the way that like the story gets reported is that someone was scared that it would like hypnotize the audience if they showed that on TV.
Oh.
I think they were scared that people would blame them for like hypnotizing them. Or there would be some kind of like
That's hilarious.
they were scared there'd be like a backlash. Like, why are you putting hypnosis stuff on TV? Like, so they changed that to the Vulcan mind meld, which
That's funny.
the franchise has gotten a lot of mileage out of both of those things.
It's
That's
true.
funny that that you said that now, and like in the actual episode, like he points out like specifically to
Yeah.
Bones, like this won't hypnotize you, it will only affect him. Like that's not how hypnosis works. Even like the fictional version of hypnosis that we see on TV, it doesn't hypnotize everyone around. Usually, it's usually just the one person.
It was like they
Yeah.
wanted like a disclaimer, like this will not hypnotize the audience. You have nothing to worry about. Those of you watching at home, this is
That's
only going to
hilarious. I had no idea. That explains that
Yeah.
line. That totally
Doctor.
explains that line.
Doctor and Emma, last night on Starfleet Boy After Dark, I did a virtual Pon Far, so I'm going to do a virtual mind meld now on on Starfleet Boy track discussion. So, Father, can you cue up the? Do you have the?
That's
Yeah,
gonna
you
be-
got to do the music though.
It's not going to
You
be
gotta
the
have
same. It's not going to be the same music that we did for the.
Who wants to
Ponfar,
be the
though.
meld? Who in the group here wants to be melded with? Who should I go back and forth between on the screen?
Go ahead,
volunteered.
so. Let's go.
You're gonna You got to
Come
come
on.
up to the screen. Get
All
close.
right,
to,
all right,
get really
all right,
close
here we
to the
go.
screen. Get closer. You have to get really close to the screen. Okay,
Oh,
get as close.
God.
All right, there you go. All right, hold on. All right, Father's getting the music ready. You're feeling a strange euphoria that you've never felt before, and and your body feels light all of a sudden. Your mind is becoming one with mine. My thoughts are your thoughts.
My thoughts are your thoughts.
What is your name?
Captain Pavel Chekhov. Oh.
I think
Oh
those
my
were
days.
two. I think those were two firsts for YouTube. The first virtual Pon Far happened last night, and the first virtual Mind Meld happened
Wow.
right now. So thank you for letting me do that. Wow.
I would also like to point out that Spock is kind of a promiscuous mind melder.
Yes, he is.
He will
After
mind
this.
meld with anything. Now that they've like broken the ice, not to like slut shame him, but
You know,
It's just- it's true, especially, but that's an Enterprise thing that we find out. Mind melding is kind of like seen that way. Don't we? But here we don't think of it that
yeah.
way.
no, of course. But I'm just saying, like he does it a lot. Like he'll do it, and not just with like people, but he'll mind meld with anything. He'll mind meld with a Horta. He'll mind meld with the Nomad probe. He'll mind meld with V'ger.
It's true.
Maybe he
Yeah.
secretly enjoys it.
Yeah. I think he has
He
like
does.
a fetish for mind melding.
I
Yeah, I
always
never
thought
thought of it
the
that
most intense was in Star Trek 6. Remember when he's with Lieutenant Varys?
Oh,
and,
that was really
and
yeah.
then he puts the second hand on her, and that I remember when I saw that as a kid, I was like, oh shit!
Yeah.
Like he's using two hands. What? He's gonna melt her
that's
brain.
when you know that the thing is
Yeah.
serious.
No, that was a
Remember,
really horrific scene, even then.
But it's interesting to like. I have not watched this episode for like a good few years, and it's interesting to see the first mind meld being performed, how it was performed compared to what you've seen in later in Voyager or other Star Trek shows, when you just one hand and a certain way into your face, and he's like dancing around the head and like going close.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
And then,
I like that.
yes. It was a bit too different to what we got used to in terms of the other shows. Like in Voyager, Tuvok that did the mind meld all the time with other crew members. I mean, all the time, but like you know what I mean. Compared to that, this was quite a performance.
Yeah, Tuvok had no flair, man, with the mind meld.
Yeah,
I have a
Nimoy
question.
dances
Becomes
around.
more evolved.
It's true. I have a question, if you guys can help me remember, but in Kelvin, does Zachary Quinto Spock use mind meld? Does he ever mind meld?
He
Yeah,
he does
he
in
mind
the first
melded
episode
Ike.
with Romulan as well.
Oh,
Steve
you're right.
Yeah, he mind melded the Romulan to get the information going onto
Right.
Nero's ship. He mind melded with Captain Pike right as spoilers
can't
for
even
Star Trek Into
remember.
Darkness, but right as he died.
It's 20 years old. If you haven't seen Star Trek Into Darkness by now, I'm
It's
sorry.
not 20 years
It's
old.
not 20 years.
It's 7 years old.
You're like Captain Kirk, my friend. Don't be ignorant. No time.
And what about Ethan Peck? Does he mind meld? He does on Talos, right?
He's
That's
he's a mind melding slut too, because he mind melded with the Red Angel.
That's right.
He's like, what the hell is this thing? I guess I should mind meld with it.
I mean, it's a great way to explore, isn't it? Like to get to know the other, like to quickly get to know someone or something. Like if
Now,
it's a strange thing.
correct me if I'm wrong. Now on Enterprise, don't they set something up where it's basically it's not polite to mind
Right.
meld and it's regulated? Is that
it
right?
was stigmatized. It was like frowned upon.
Yes.
Mind meld at all until Enterprise season 4, when Manny Koto became the showrunner and he fixed all the things that weren't good in Enterprise.
Oh, how did he fix the mind meld?
Oh,
T'Pol wasn't sure.
Phoenix.
What's that,
He
Roddy?
wasn't sure about. T'Pol wasn't sure about mind melding when she was asked to.
Yeah, T'Pol was hesitant, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, she was basically they met like these Vulcan hippies in season 1. And they were like, yeah, we're not squares like those other Vulcans. Like, we still have our emotions, and we mind meld all the time, even though people think it's weird. And it's clearly, like, it's hard to talk about without getting, like, too nasty. But, like, T'Pol is basically, like, assaulted with a mind meld.
Right.
In a very, like, rapey type of way. And then in season 2 of Enterprise, they established that, like, oh, you actually got like a mind meld transmitted disease from that happening. So then it became like an AIDS metaphor, where like it was kind of like an AIDS metaphor for like the 80s, where the Vulcan High Command or whatever they were aware that like people were mind melding and transmitting this disease, but because the mind melders were this frowned upon part of society, they didn't have any motivation to like try to like address the disease.
Yeah, Phlox got very upset, I remember, and they didn't invest any research into it. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What about, let's see, we got the first mind meld. We also found out in this episode that you need to, the transporter chiefs need to brush up on their procedure, and that Kirk really knows his procedure.
For prisons.
For prisons, specifically, because he's visited many of them.
Because Kirk likes to go to prisons.
Why does he like to go to prisons?
Maybe he's been in a prison or something.
Well, you know, now that this hadn't occurred to me until now, but you know, obviously this is Kelvin timeline, but those movies do kind of set up that he's, you know, he's a rebel rouser. He's not, doesn't exactly, you know, play by the rules, and probably got into a couple of scrapes, and yeah, maybe he has seen maybe he's seen Juvie or something, and
the Kirk so far, the impression I have of this Kirk, of whatever you want to call it, prime timeline Kirk, or
is different.
is different. He was very studious, apparently, when he was young. He's been on a trajectory for captaincy for a long time, and captaincy is where he seems to find his true calling. And he's like as far as I know, he doesn't have a record or anything like that. He was he's just like pretty.
One thing for sure about this Captain Kirk, that he has never been arrested by speeding.
Yeah, I would concur with
that. Kirk becomes the rebel Kirk, I think, after Star Trek 2.
I think there's a bit of that rebellious Kirk in the original series or the animated series.
Yeah.
We'll see it in Galileo 7 coming up.
Okay.
Whenever we get to that.
Or even he's in, what is it, Trials, Tribbles with Troubles. He's a bit of mischievous boy in that episode.
Yeah, when the Federation bureaucrats are like coming down on him, he'll break the rules.
Oh, why? Look who's here.
Yeah, it's true. How's Family Day going, Toddy? Your stress-free K is probably really excited to see you in the audience. What else was in my notes? I like that scene, actually. The reason I liked it is because he was being playful with his crew, and he was kind of building that camaraderie with like his forgiveness of that one transporter tech not knowing the procedure and things like that. It was a very tongue-in-cheek, playful kind of way. The other thing I took note of, we talked about this a little bit earlier, is that Dr. McCoy kind of wins twice in their like arguments. The first time is when he's arguing with him and he says, well, I'm obligated to put a note in my log about this, and you're obligated to answer for it. And that kind of forces Kirk's hand. This is like an example of like how the medical chief has the upper hand, because he can basically like object to anything you're doing on the grounds of mental health or medical health, physical and mental health. And then the second time is when he must have known when that he must have been delighted, at least, when he found out that his psychologist on board was Dr. Noel, because clearly the gossip had to have gone around, and so he must have taken a little delight in pairing them up together. And I really liked it. I really liked that, and I took a note about that as well.
We haven't talked about her at all.
Yeah, why haven't we talked about Dr. Noel? You thought that this was this the episode that you thought was Diane Muldaur's?
Yeah, I misremembered that she was in this one, but I was thinking of Return to Tomorrow. I think this is the one with like the little orbs that like possess consciousness into you.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one that she was in. But no, like the inclusion of her was really cool, because like they break up the traditional like just keeping it between McCoy, Spock, and Kirk, and then Yeoman Rand was like really common in the early episodes. I would assume that like early drafts of the script probably included Yeoman Rand instead of this specialist. But I mean, that's the cool thing about her, is I think this is the first time where we see this ship is so vast that there are so many people in the crew, and Starfleet is so big of an organization that they have people who specialize in different things. They're kind of like in Space Seed, where we have like a historian on board. So I like the inclusion of that.
And you can bet that the specialist is going to be a woman who they throw at Kirk. The writers throw at Kirk.
Not all the time, but they wanted to have like a little bit of,
it's true.
A little bit of heartthrob action. But she's the one who like really liked him. Like you could question the ethnicity or the ethicalness. I mean, like the ethics of basically like mentally brainwashing someone to fall in love with
Well,
yeah,
that's
I think she was the creep in this one.
She,
For
like,
once,
she-
for once,
okay,
Kirk
what?
got someone
So,
creepy to
so
him.
she suggested that at the Christmas party he swept her off her feet, took her to his cabin, and they made out. Right? That was the innocent suggestion.
As far as she got.
Well, that's as far as she got. But then what really happened? Because that implies that nothing happened between them at the Christmas party. But the earlier scene in the
Right.
transfer, Kirk seems to be a little embarrassed. So I'm really curious what happened at the Christmas party.
Well, I
that
think it was like a work Christmas party where like two co-workers like talked and flirted and maybe had like a little bit too much to drink. But then like he shut it down before it went too far, and he's kind of embarrassed now because there was that Kirk idea of like, oh, I can never love any of these women because I have to be committed to my ship, and I'm married to the Enterprise. I don't have room for anyone else.
even
But, like,
drunk.
yeah, but like at the Christmas party, at the work holiday party, the company party, when he might have got like a little tipsy and he let his guard down for just a little bit, and
I
he's
would love-
embarrassed about it.
I would love to see
Is it-
Spock at a Christmas party. That must be hilarious. That's great. I mean, really.
I think that I request officially now that short treks be made called the Christmas Party, and it should reveal to us what exactly happened at the Christmas party. I even have casting suggestions for Dr. Noel and Captain Kirk as well already.
Well, who would
Wow.
you cast?
It's already on Twitter.
Oh,
Is it okay if I
It's already on
go
Twitter.
to the toilet
Wow.
quickly?
Yeah.
Okay.
You totally can. Cheers. Don't take us with you like people do on.
No.
Okay.
At my work, it happened.
Don't
Well.
forget.
It happened.
Oh my.
No,
it
happened.
was a really interesting experience. Trust me.
There's a lot of Zoom bombs or Zoom fails, they call them.
Yeah.
In the early days of the pandemic.
Yeah, I know all about those.
Sean, since you're here, Trek on the Tube has something to say, which is modern Star Trek prefers to put science and faith against each other, which is a sad thing. I don't think the future would dismiss religion. I'd rather believe science and faith work hand in hand. I think it's a really great. Why don't you just come on the stream, Sean? He's probably at a park right now or something like that. I think that's interesting. I do think DS9 is the Star Trek show that kind of repairs that a little bit and really brings it. For me, I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
I mean,
agree.
I don't have a problem with some faith or religion being in Star Trek. I don't think it's problematic when it's like centered around, this is the right religion, like I talked about in the bread and circuses.
yeah, like Bread and Circuses kind of ends on that episode. Kind of ends on like, well, the default correct religion is Christianity.
Yeah,
that's a problem. I think in general, they're like the world becomes a more secular place. Like just within my lifetime, I've seen it move in that direction. DS9 is interesting because like that religion is like, well, you kind of know that like these gods are real. Like the prophets are actual aliens that live in the wormhole. So is it really faith at this point? Like when you know, like when you can prove the existence of them.
Yeah, I suppose that in that case, it's the faith part comes in that they believe that these beings actually impact daily life.
Yeah.
Kind of like in earlier times, people who ancient people who worship the sun and all that stuff. Obviously, they could see the sun; you can clearly see it's there, and the moon, but they believe that they have a supernatural impact on daily life somehow. So I guess that's where the faith component would come in. But
Sean has another question, which is, how would you all feel about a digitally de-aged Walter Koenig doing a first day of Chekhov short tracks? I love the idea, and I think Gary's saying no. I'll just say that I love the idea, and I think the reason why is because I just really think it's important for the performer. I think that for me, the performers are like kind of like they hold a torch to those characters because they've played them for so long. So it would be really nice for them to get to do things like that if they're willing. Like if he wants to be a part of like a digitally de-aged thing, that would be awesome. I would say give the first refusal rights to Walter Koenig.
That would be so hard to like de-age him from 80 down to like 20. Like
You'd have to do a computer-generated person. It would have to be
I think it would be easier just to do like a different actor and just like put like Walter Koenig's face on him. But I say do one or the other. Either bring Walter Koenig back to play Chekhov, or do like Chekhov's first day and like recast. I wouldn't do Walter Koenig as Chekhov's first day now.
No, if it's Walter Koenig, he has to come back how he is and play Chekhov as an admiral or something. I would not.
Cool.
I would not
I'd
feel
be more
comfortable
interested in
seeing
that.
a young Chekhov played by the old Walter Koenig, de-aged digitally, and then you can see the older CG humble bumble in there that you don't really want to see.
Walter.
Well, you can see the Irishman is a good the Irishman is a good example of that.
The one that's the one with De Niro and
yeah.
I watched that, and I thought they did a better job on De Niro than they did on Joe Pesci. I thought, but
I 1,000% will use de-aging software when it becomes readily available to live streams and make myself look like.
By the time it becomes available, I think we all can apply the face filter in real life. So when we walk around, we just slap on the face virtually.
You know what the problem is, though. In all honesty, is the de-aging, like visually, I think they've made a lot of progress, but it's specifically in The Irishman, De Niro still walked like an old man.
Yeah.
That was the problem. Like De Niro looked young, but if you compare him to, like, say, in Ronin, which I just rewatched a couple days ago, like, De Niro's walking like an old man. When he's throwing the gun over the bridge and all that stuff, like he looks like an old guy. And Joe Pesci, the same thing. So I think that's still the problem. We can do that, but to a certain extent, we as we get older, depending on how we're aging, we walk differently. It's like Harrison Ford. I find it, and I know this is going to go way off tangent, but it is absurd that he's going to play Indiana Jones to me in a fifth movie because he's just too freaking old. He doesn't.
Wow.
He can barely
Harrison
run.
Ford is watching this right now and throwing his.
And I am going on record saying that
throwing it at you right now. It's like, I don't know why I started watching this goddamn Starfleet boy, and then I heard my name, and he says I'm too old to play Indiana Jones.
Too damn old, Harrison.
I'll show
Too damn
him.
old.
I'm gonna do it anyways. Sorry, go ahead.
I think that it could be good if his age was worked into the story.
If it's worked into the story, but
a bit like Logan.
I think they've done a preview of what it could look like at the beginning of Young Indiana Jones, and we're gonna get off this Indiana Jones topic because that's when we start losing our audience when we go off these like topics. But there was kind of like an old Harrison Ford played older version of himself in the once in Young Indiana Jones, so he can now.
But he wasn't that old though. It was just him in the 50s.
He can play that version. The beginning of Young Indiana Jones is like probably the 60s now.
No, he played. There was one episode where Harrison Ford came back. It's the one where it's with the flute, and he is Indiana Jones in the 50s, early 50s. So it's after World War II.
Well, anyways, he plays an older version of himself, so he could play that version.
Yeah, but the actor himself was still.
I know, and ironically, like every old person, he has an eye patch, if I recall correctly.
Well, that's the other actor.
Okay, but if you don't really want to go so far away from Star Trek, I mean, most of us, all of us, I'm pretty sure watched Picard. I mean, Data has been recreated to look younger. Mm-hmm. He looked creepy as younger him. I mean, no, don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
Spiner is amazing, but he didn't look remotely close to what he looked in Nemesis, and Nemesis was at least 10-15 years before 10 years before Picard. So there was
I thought they did a good job. I thought they did a good job with Data.
Well,
I forget the whole Picard thing from the very beginning.
To stick to Sean's specific question, so he says, like, he asked if we would do Walter Koenig or and we all said we would prefer a recast over a de-aging. Except me, I said I would, but if you had to recast Chekhov for for CBS TV for short treks, who would you cast as Chekhov that you know of? What actor would you cast?
No,
I say Timothy. I say Timothy Chalamet.
No,
or Tom Holland. I think Tom Holland could also do a good Chekhov.
Oh yeah, Tom Holland would do. He would be good. I don't know if he can do like the Chekhov accent, but he would definitely have like that youthful energy.
The exuberance.
Yeah.
No comment.
Robbie, do you follow any actors about Chekhov's age in the Strange New Worlds era that you think would be a good Chekhov to play Chekhov?
I can't think of someone.
No. So then I win. Timothy Chalamet.
Or because I need him to do like these Dune movies. I want him to do Dune sequels and until we're done. Until we get done past like Children of Dune, and then he can go do other stuff.
I think Sean from Trek on the Tube has the acting chops. I nominate him to play a young Chekhov.
He's too old.
He's too old.
Yeah, he can't be like young Chekhov, like right out of the academy.
Robbie, can you do a Chekhov impression?
Have
you tried one yet?
Nuclear vessels, Captain.
Yeah.
I nominate you to be the short Chekhov.
Put it on the Twitter. Put it on the
I look
Twitter.
nothing. I don't look anything like him.
That's
Don't
when
worry,
the
they
CG
can put a
comes in.
wig on you. Don't worry.
Yeah, they'll
Give him the Davy Jones wig.
The Davy Jones wig. There we go.
We got a ton of comments. Shishan Girls here. Welcome. Greetings, everyone. I'm here lurking while I'm cooking. Ooh, what are you cooking? What I've caught so far is really insightful. Thank you. We're trying to stay on topic. We went on a really weird tangent.
Yeah, we've barely talked about the episode, I think.
No,
It's a shame because I do have some really good insights to
tell
ask.
us.
Well,
No, ask questions. That's what
okay,
this is
so
about.
first things first. I watched this episode with my wife, and the thing that you need to know about her that she doesn't really watch Star Trek. Why do you put me on big screen? So we watched it together, and first thing that came to our mind, they beamed up this box. How on earth they didn't see that there's a human being inside? Didn't they have transporter scanners or something, biofilters or whatever? Like, hey, we are transporting up some living creature.
The guy that was running the transporter, remember, he didn't even know that you had to lower.
That was his first day, so he's passing
that
on.
guy was a terrible transporter chief, and he probably got reassigned to like astrometrics or something after this.
Robbie's having a transporter accident right now. Something's going on.
Sorry, I dropped my phone.
Oh, it's all right. You're holding your phone this whole. I feel so sorry. We're gonna try to keep it to an hour as much as we can, Robbie. I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
The one thing that none of you talked about when it came to Dr. Nolan, though. Nolan?
Dr. Noel.
Noel. She killed a man. Whether it's defense or self-defense or not, but she killed a man.
Oh, when she throws them into the electrical grid.
It just got unnoticed. Like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, that was pretty badass.
No one asks anything. Like in a security prison.
I think everyone in that weird facility were in cahoots, and I think that guy totally deserved it. By the way, Doctor.
But even if they deserve it, that's still a murder. Like, wouldn't you press charges or like you being back to the ship and like nothing happened?
No, he was trying to murder
party again.
He was trying to murder the good guys. You don't press charges on the good guys, Gary. Like, what? Do you not watch TV? No, I'm just.
I do. No. It's just a bit disturbing in a sense that I'm not saying it was wrong what she did because it was self-defense, but still. I was expecting something at the end. Of course, it's 45 minutes. It's not going to be, a low on order at the end of the day. But still,
they could have softened it up a little bit by like having him like moan or something as he's like falling down to the floor, just like let you know like he's still alive. He's just stuck.
No, but that guy was electrocuted. And,
that was
I mean,
that's pretty. That's true. That was pretty shocking when we watched it.
Literally shocking.
Literally shocking.
I don't think it was intentional. I think she was just trying to get him like away from her.
Literally shocking.
Kicked him away.
I like that sequence though.
Yeah.
Our banners are not working on Starfleet Boys. So this is the part where we talk about the actor. So Mariana Hill plays Dr. Helen Noel, and she's still around. She was born in 1942, so cheers to Mariana Hill. And then we have James Gregory playing Dr.
Yeah, he's not around.
No, he died in 2002. He was born in 1911. So yeah, he was born at the...
What else was he in? He's so familiar to me when I watched
His
him.
last appearance was, it says here, as Mr. Sparks on Mr. Belvedere, which I loved. Mr. Belvedere, it was one of my favorite shows when I was a kid. But he was on Barney Miller for 66 episodes, so you probably recognize him.
Oh, he is on Barney Miller. You're right.
Inspector Frank Luger, and
yeah, that's where
yeah,
That's the Dr. Adams guy that we're talking about.
yeah, Dr.
Yes.
Adams.
Now Van
Yeah.
Gilder, the guy who plays Van Gilder, he's in a bunch
He'll
of
be
stuff.
on Star Trek. He'll be on Star Trek twice too, right? Isn't he on?
He's coming up, right? In the Omega Glory?
Yeah, that's him.
He's the captain, right?
Yeah, he,
I think-
Ron Tracy, I think.
yeah. So his name is
Yeah, I think it's Captain
Morgan.
Exeter.
It's Morgan Woodward is the actor who plays
Van
Van
Gilder.
Gelder.
Did y'all see the
And-
South Park episode with Van Gilder?
No, I didn't see
So
that.
What?
It's like a season 2 South Park episode from like 1998. But they do this. They have like this guy who like sneaks himself in like a canister to like escape this planetarium on their school bus or something. And when he comes out and he's like, "Oh, my name is Van Gilder," and they like tortured me and like erased my memories. It's like the weirdest thing ever.
That's crazy. I gotta
That's
see
so
that.
random.
Clearly, it's clearly a comment on this episode.
He works with Shatner again. I don't know how many times, but I see on his roster here, he's a very prolific actor. But he works with him again in T.J. Hooker. He was also on Dallas, and he also was on Gunsmoke. And
Yes, he was
The
in
Adventure-
Gunsmoke.
The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr., The X-Files, and the last thing
Oh,
he did was
shit.
the 97 called Millennium. So he's been, pretty cool. All three of these performers, I really like their job, like how they were in this
Was he
episode.
the same character in Millennium and X-Files? Because I know those shows crossed over a lot. Does it say?
It says he played Iron Lung Man in Millennium, and the X-Files he played Old Harry Cockley.
Interesting.
I love the X-Files.
X-Files, the early seasons were very, very good.
Yeah, I watched it when it was coming out originally. I would have a hard time going back to it now, I think, because the way we think of conspiracy theorists in our society now is it's not as fun as it used to be. Like,
Oh, the lone gunman, you mean?
well, just like the idea of like, oh yeah, I think like the government is like lying about aliens, and now it's like, oh, QAnon. So like conspiracy theory has like really shifted over the
Oh
years.
shit, that's true. I hadn't thought
Yeah.
about that. That's true.
Unfortunately.
Wow.
we got a
Can I just? Sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Gary. But I was just saying that we got a confirmation that he plays Captain Tracy in the Omega Glory as well. So from
Yeah.
Chris, thanks, Chris. Go ahead, Gary.
Okay, just I wanted to say, but we say that this episode basically the first of the Walk on Earth binge, and of course the mind meld appearance. But I think this is the first episode also when we find that it's easier to open a hatch from the inside for one person than opening it from the outside for two person.
Oh,
I'm not sure if you've got the reference when Captain Kirk was like, getting
Yeah.
that hatch, two person, and then she goes in, and from the inside she's just like,
I'm glad you
there
reminded
was
me.
nothing there,
That
and
was
she
another.
put it back as well at the same time.
We noticed that too. That's true.
That's
Well, maybe
hilarious.
she's smarter than Kirk. She's smarter than Kirk, and she figured out how to.
Well, yeah.
open
See, every successful man has a woman behind.
Yeah.
I think that
This episode proves it very well.
I think that scene was funny for another reason too, because in that scene he was just in the brainwashing thing, and he's like kind of like supposed to be totally in love with Dr. Noel, and so she thinks that he's about to come and like grab her and like kiss her or something, and instead he goes the duct, and he goes for the duct instead, and I thought that was really
Not just that, when Spock walks in, that moment, that
Oh
face,
yeah,
that's
yeah, that was
hilarious.
hilarious.
Can we talk about Spock a little bit? Like I love like the action Spock stuff when I really like that Dr. Noel. She's doing stuff, kicking ass. She's the one who gets the security shield down, and and Spock is he's just gonna beam straight in. He grabs his phaser pistol. He's like, "I'm going in, Doctor. Follow me with the security team." But I'm going in there now, and he beams down there. I like the technology. It's all like physical, switches and stuff. I want to see stuff like this in Strange New Worlds when we get that show. Like him deactivate, busting that panel box open and deactivating all that. And then he goes to find Kirk, find his buddy. And he's just sucking face with Dr. Joel. He walks in on them.
Yeah, his reaction was great.
It was really great. Going back to the de-aging, Toddy says the second Hugh Jackman in Logan was 100% fake looking, all CG, not mocap, nothing, just 100% a fake recreation. Is that true?
I can't see anything.
I don't remember it looking fake.
I don't know. I'm skeptical about that. I've never heard that before.
All of the performances in Logan are.
No, he's talking about. I think there's a clone of Wolverine in that movie. Spoilers, but the bad guys make a young Wolverine.
Oh, at the end.
Yeah.
But I think there had to have been some mocap or something for that.
I don't remember. I don't remember.
I can't remember. I vaguely recall that it did trigger that uncanny valley feeling of
I think I thought it looked good. I'm one of the few people who didn't like that movie, but
same thing for Picard. In Picard, he still walked like an old Sir Patrick Stewart. Yeah, that was one of his critiques, and I kind of
absolutely.
I remember that being pointed out. It didn't stand out to me, but I remember other people talking about it.
Go ahead.
Caleb Richardson's looking for a co-host, so anyone wants to be on, I'll come on sometimes. Caleb, I'm always down. I'm like a podcasting slut, Spock. I'll totally come on your podcast. I mean, I will appear on your podcast. Thank you. Sorry. Oh my gosh! Stop! Cancel Starfleet Boy, everybody. That's so embarrassing.
Oh my days.
My mind is terrible. If he could muster the strength to throw a whiskey, that was to my Harrison Ford comment. He can. Shock Apocalypse. He can throw a whiskey.
Oh, come on.
He can totally do it.
Come on.
We also have Shishan Girl loves it when we go off on tangents, so don't worry. Yay. Hopefully everyone else feels the same way. Thank you, Shishan Girl. Let's see what else we've got here that's particular to this episode. Okay, here we go. We have Trek on the Tube. Oh, still talking about Logan. Jeez, Trek on the Tube. What is this? Okay, so real Logan in the movie is not even Hugh Jackman. 80% of the movie is Jackman's face pasted on a double body, like the driver's seat and all. But how do you know so much? Were you on the production? But the second Logan, no, I'm sure. Just kidding. But the second Logan, when he's walking down the stairs, that's not him at all. Okay. Why
Did
poor
Hugh Jackman fall out?
Because you're coming on to the website, to the podcast.
What were you going to say, Robbie? Sorry?
Did Hugh Jackman fall out with the crew?
Should Hugh Jackman do what? You broke up.
Did Hugh Jackman fall out with the crew?
Follow up with the crew?
Fall out.
Fall out with him.
Fall out with the crew. Oh, fall out with them. I don't know.
You gotta ask Trek on the Tube. He's the expert.
Yeah, Trek on the Tube.
Yeah, he's
Trek
clearly writing the book.
He needs to come here and explain this movie to us.
Trek on the Tube. I want you to know. I want Trek on the Tube to know that Trekker Prize is not actually here. I've CGI'd Gary. This is a total recreation that I have painstakingly animated.
I feel humiliated. I feel humiliated. You know what? This is my avatar now. There you go. That's me.
Very nice. Very nice. All right,
Talk to the hand.
I'm going through my notes, and I think I covered everything that I wanted to talk about. Lethe. Did we talk about Lethe, the character being connected to Star Trek Discovery? What did you guys think? What do you think? Is there a connection to that episode?
What kind of therapy did because they said she was a therapist, right? That she was reformed, and now she works as a therapist at the facility.
Yeah, I don't
Isn't
know.
that what they
It's
said? But I mean, the lady is pretty much zombified. Like, what kind of therapy sessions are they having? Like, I have a lot of trouble. I mean, I love the episode. Don't get me wrong, but after it was over, and the way it all just kind of wrapped up, that they call back and Dr. Gelder? Is that his name?
Van Gelder.
Van Gelder's like, okay, everything's fine. Thanks for, helping.
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of like, wait a minute. This guy was like barely able to function last time we saw him, and now he's all fine and he's running the facility. And so are the people still zombies on the facility? Did everybody go back to normal? What exactly happened at the end?
That's what I'm saying. Go ahead, sorry.
I think it could have had a follow-up episode.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah, because I don't understand.
I agree.
Yeah, how are these effects reversed?
Right.
They
And
don't resolve Kirk. Yeah, like he's in love
Kirk
with Helen
seemed-
Noel now.
And then he seemed completely fine. He didn't really care, although he was longing for her. He just that kind of wore off at the end.
Did Spock come up to him and do like the Requiem for Methuselah thing and like mind meld him and say forget? So erase her from his mind. I like to think that like every time Kirk falls in love, like every episode,
Spock just like forgets.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's
Love
so
only the ship.
only the shit. Spock the whole time.
Love only me and the ship.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
that's
Talk
hilarious.
about getting Spock blocked.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so we're gonna go back to Daniel CEO, who was here from the way in the beginning, and now that we're at the end of the episode, he had some thoughts to express, which were, I really enjoyed this episode. Some great ideas about mental health issues, which we talked about. They were way ahead of their times, which we also talked about. Great. We're also aligned. That's so cool. Morgan Woodward is great as Simon Van Gelder. He plays a great crazy guy. He actually does.
His eyes were bulging out of his head. I don't know how that actor did that. I mean, his eyes were like intense.
I'm sure he was the personal trainer for Robert O'Reilly for Gowron.
For guy
before the Galron eyes, they were Van Gelder eyes.
Before it was him, yeah, that's right.
Can you see
What
my
are you
Van Gelder? I'm trying to show my Van Gelder drawing.
Oh, okay.
Wait, hold on.
No, put yourself.
Oh yeah, I gotta go.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Wait,
put yourself full screen.
On my notes. I don't know why I'm doing this. Okay, here we go. There's my Van. There's my Van Gelder.
Oh wow,
Nice.
So
that's nice
my
to see you draw again, Sahel.
Yeah, it's not as good at drawing as I used to be able to do.
No, but I remember you got to show that comic book one of these days.
I did a Star Trek comic book in high school.
You did a
I will try
comic?
to find it. Yeah.
Oh
I
wow,
wanna see that.
that's a special stream for you.
Yeah,
Right there.
that's a Starfleet
It was-
After Dark for
It
sure.
was okay. It was a it was a Jurassic Park Star Trek crossover.
Yes, it was.
Awesome.
Yes,
You gotta do a live stream, live reading of it.
We
after
should.
dark.
We should.
we could play the
Scan it?
parts. Yeah, we
Oh,
could.
yeah.
We could read
Yeah,
parts.
I got it. All right, I gotta find. I'm gonna get off
Can I
my.
be a dinosaur?
Yes, I used to do a great impression of a Dilophosaurus and a raptor. By the way. Ooh, that's good. Daniel also says, not so sure about the role of Helen Noel, as that relationship was kind of goes nowhere. Yes, yeah.
Now,
Great introduction to Mindwell, and then wait, just a few more things. I quite enjoy Tristan Adams as the nut running the nut house. Yes, and he gives it an 8.5, and we also earlier I think we got Caleb's rating, which was also around that, around 8 point something or 8. So yeah, all right. Go ahead.
question: Is Yeoman Rand? Is she gone now from there here on out, or does she return?
Because we're going in the air date order, there's some more with her. I don't know, like in the production order, when her last episode. She appears in 8 episodes total.
Okay, we haven't done 8 episodes.
Yeah,
yet.
we
Okay.
got a couple more with her.
Okay, got it. But in terms of production, she was gone. Starting with this episode, this is when they got rid of the actress. They let her go.
It might have been. Because I'm thinking originally the script was going to use her in place of Dr. Noel.
Right. Oh, and
that'd be
Sean brings up a great. We have to talk about
Yeah.
what
Like
the
some
hell
weird
was
cult
that?
uniforms, I guess.
Can I gotta try to find it. Hold on. Tantalus 5. Hold on. It's got to be on the
Oh.
internet.
Well, they do that. They also do that for the other mental health facility we see in season 3 with Whom Gods Destroy, where we meet Garth of Izar.
Mm-hmm.
They have the same uniform.
Oh, they do. I didn't realize that. Wow.
Let's analyze it real quick. I'm gonna
It's
pull
just
an
like-
image of it.
It's just like that, like standard Starfleet utility uniform that we see a lot of.
No, but the
with the patch.
talking
Yeah.
about-
the patch is ridiculous. It's like,
Wait, I've
it's
got
like a strange.
A hand and a bird and
Yeah.
right?
Isn't that like a Christian image of like the dove?
it?
Like a
Oh, you're right.
Jesus?
I was gonna say, I think
You're
it-
right. Holy moly!
I think I've
Hold on,
seen
I
it
got
in
it.
like the missalettes when I go to mass. Like I think it's one of the images I see in the missalette sometimes, like the generic image. Yeah, look at that.
Whoa.
It's pretty intense. This is a patch. I would love whatever the meaning is aside. I actually would love to own that patch. It's a pretty cool thing to have as a Star Trek thing, a deep cut, if you will. It's very interesting. But yeah, I thought it was weird.
And it's huge. It's a huge patch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Federation at this point is very mysterious and unknown, and we don't see the likes of it again. It kind of changes. Oh, what did I just do? Sorry about that.
Yeah, they hadn't even established the Federation at the time this episode
Yeah,
was made. Like they talk about it like it's kind of an Earth ship.
right.
And they don't even mention Starfleet for a while. We get mentions of YESPA, the United Earth Space Probing Agency, and then they're like, "That's a stupid name. We should change it to something cool like
Ooh.
Starfleet."
Yes, but all right. So it's time to give the rating. So I'll go first. One of the most touching parts of this episode for me was at the very end when we kind of get a glimpse into something really deep about Kirk when he expresses a note of his trauma from this episode, and I really like that. I like that this episode, even if it wasn't heavy with it, really kind of focused on mental health, prison systems, trauma. It was very like political in a very science fiction-y kind of way, if you will, in a way that wasn't, I don't know what the what the word would be, but for that, I thought it was clever, and it gets a 8.5 for me as well. So I agree with Daniel CEO.
Do we
Go
want
to
to go?
Trucker Prize.
Truck. Oh yeah, let's go around. Yeah, Trucker.
Yeah,
I'll
let's
go
go in
now.
order.
Yes, round the clock.
Okay, so I surprisingly enjoyed this episode, not knowing that what I was looking, because when I was looking for the episode title, quick fun fact, not so much fun, but fun fact, in Netflix it's episode 10, while it's on TrekCore it's episode 9, because the pilot is not included on TrekCore, but it's included as episode 1 on Netflix. Fun fact, but useless. I give a 9.5, and one thing I actually didn't notice, but my wife, Mrs. Trekker Price, pointed out at the very end when Dr. Adams died. They've said that basically, because even though there was no one in the booth, he died of nothing, of not having anything in his mind, of basically being lonely. And Esther made a really good point on that especially these days it translates so well with this pandemic situation, that a lot of people stuck at home, a lot of people are alone home, and they can get crazy, and their thoughts can actually damage them mentally. Yeah, we talked about mental health in this episode, which was a very big part of it, but Dagger of the Mind, the episode title itself, connects to it as well, that your mind basically gets attacked with the thought of not having any thought of not being able to talk to anyone, and there's a lot of with old people coming up, and even with younger generation, I'm sure. So it's a really interesting way to kind of close up, and to see that aspect of it as well, translating it to 2020, which I was surprised as well until she pointed out. I was like, wow, that's actually really awesome to realize. So yeah, 9.5 from me. This was a bit cheesy sometimes.
That's very cool. And if I may be selfish and add on that's another connection to Star Trek V is Kirk doesn't want to die alone. He has like this weird kind of fear of dying alone. And so there's a weird connection to this episode there as well, where he remarks about like, can you imagine what it's like to die completely alone? So I think this trauma that Kirk experiences is like long lasting, and I really kind of I think it's interesting, and I'm very curious to see how it's explored further. I'm really tuning into it. All right, Father, it's your turn.
I give it 7 drunken dances at the Christmas party out of 10. I think that the topic that it discusses is kind of relevant and progressive. I think that the use of the character Dr. Helen Noel is kind of well executed, but overall, like, not a ton happens in this episode. Like, they wrap everything up real quickly at the end. It is cool that it gives us the mind meld, but yeah, like nothing is particularly bad, but it doesn't really stand out to me a lot. I'd say it's just a solid episode, but ultimately doesn't really go like above par in any way to really impress me. So 7 out of 10.
Very cool. Robbie, would you care to go next?
I would give it an 8 out of 10. I think it's a very strong episode that deals with something very forward-thinking for the time, and I think it should have had a follow-up episode.
Excellent. And Dr. and Emma, take it away.
Yeah, I think I agree with most of you. I'd give it an 8.5 as well. I think I'd go higher if, some of those loose ends were tied up. And it's a really interesting take that Mrs. Trucker Prize made. I connected that, like, the dying of loneliness thing more to, when I was thinking about it, more to solitary confinement, which is still something we, unfortunately, have a lot of issues with in our prison systems today. But, yeah, it's definitely interesting to think about it in terms of 2020 as well. And I just thought it was a great episode, and there are a lot of interesting things that we can interpret in different ways in today's world, and it's still very thought-provoking and some really awesome performances from all the cast.
Yeah, I would. I was going to give it an 8, but yeah, I'll go the 8.5. I'll match your 8.5 because I did like the episode. And one thing I didn't mention before was I liked the structure of the episode that you had. It was vaguely reminiscent of Next Generation. We had that kind of had an A and B plot. I mean, there's really one plot, but you had Spock and McCoy on the Enterprise attacking the plot from their angle in terms of trying to learn what's going on with Van Gelder, and then you had Kirk actually on the ground trying to figure out what's going on. I mean, really, in a way, it's a mystery, and you have the two sets of characters trying to figure out the mystery from two completely different angles, and I thought that was an interesting structure. You had Kirk on the ground and you had Spock and McCoy up there until finally the end, and I thought that was interesting. And but like you said, and like everybody said, is just watching it, I was just struck by how just the idea of having an episode set on a penal colony and talking about the rehabilitation of people who are incarcerated for one reason or another is very progressive, is very forward thinking, and I just found that to be very surprising for a product of the 60s. I mean, I don't even think Next Generation would have done an episode like this. I can't think of an episode of Next Generation where they go to a prison in the Federation. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Well,
But
again, there's that.
Tom Paris, and Tom Paris
Yeah.
is at a rehabilitation center in the opening of Star Trek Voyager.
Oh yeah, in New Zealand.
Oh,
New Zealand is a penal
Was it
colony?
I think it was New Zealand. Let me have a
Yes,
quick look.
it is.
I think it was New Zealand. Yeah.
Yeah.
Before we go, if you guys enjoyed this stream, please press like. Thank you for attending. We really appreciate it. There were a couple of notes that you guys reminded me of. The title of this episode is taken from Macbeth. Is this a dagger which I see before me, the handle toward my hand? Come, let me clutch thee. I have thee not, and yet I see thee still. Art thou not fatal vision sensible to feeling as to sight? Or art thou but a dagger of the mind, a false creation proceeding from the heat oppressed brain, or oppressed? I'm not sure how you're supposed to say that, but that was from Macbeth. And then Lethe, who we talked about, is a reference to the River of Forgetfulness, which is from Greek mythology, and I guess
Interesting.
that was the thing. And also Tantalus is a Greek reference. This is all from Memory Alpha, by the way.
Yeah.
I didn't know this stuff.
Tantalus is the river of death, right?
No, Tantalus was the former king imprisoned in Tartarus for various evil deeds, which you can see in that awesome follow-up to 300. What was that movie called? With
300 Rise of an Empire?
The other with Henry Cavill playing Zeus's son.
That is not okay. That's Immortal or something, but that's
Immortal.
not a direct follow-up.
I love that movie.
300.
Immortal.
I remember. I saw it with you. Yeah, you love that movie so much. It's ridiculous.
I also love 300. It has nothing to do with the men.
They have nothing to do with each other.
Or like whatever. And that's it. I guess that's. Oh, and then James Doohan and George Takei do not appear in this episode, just for a matter of continuity. Oh, and Spock. Spock is wearing the Uhura ear thing in one moment. Right, I'm done.
Oh, wait. I got one more thing, though.
Okay,
my favorite part in the episode is when Spock is staring into his blue thing and Kirk just kind of like, so what you looking at in there, you know? You remember that part? Like, Kirk is like, what you looking in there? What's going on in there? You know,
what I noticed as well, just a quick tidbit. I think some of the sets in the prison colony was actually reused from the episode What Are Little Girls Made Of?
Oh.
Some of the cardboard cave walls are from that episode. They were reused.
Good eye.
Yeah. Why did they put this facility underground?
But the funny thing is, I checked when you talked about the CG and the original copy of the movie, the episode. I have checked the original screen caps, and it was a proper, ground facility. So I now looking at it, I prefer the original.
Interesting. That's very interesting. I got to go back and look. They've made changes like that, but I tend to favor the updates. I don't know. I'm terrible. I'm like George Lucas in that regard. But anyways, let's go in backwards order and sound off on things that you guys are promoting this week. So Emma and Humbert, got anything cool to promote or talk about that the audience can check out?
I just recently bought this really cool figure from Dune.
The Baron.
Look at that, the Baron Harkonnen.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's what I want to promote.
Yeah, that's a toy of a pedophile.
I know, right? Is that bizarre?
Pedophile, yeah. That's weird. They make a toy of them.
It's what's the most bizarre thing is when I was on eBay, they actually have Dune. This is from the '84 movie, Dune party supplies. So imagine you're that kid that got a Dune birthday party in 1984, like with the sandworm on the cake and everything. I'm like, what?
Why would they do that to kids?
Well, I know what I'm doing for my birthday.
All right. Thanks for promoting that absurd thing, Humbert. That's very cool.
Thank you.
Very backhanded. Thank you.
Thank you.
Earl Grey Trekkie, what do you got to promote?
Nothing really.
You can promote
Alright.
Earl Grey tea at least.
Yes.
Yes.
It's very good.
We didn't do. I'm sorry, there's not too much time. But if you could give us, we have a tradition. Would you mind telling your Star Trek story real quick? Can you tell us like how you came to Star Trek?
Well, I found The Next Generation on Netflix, and
Woo!
I gave it a go, and I really enjoyed it. And found out there were all these different Star Trek shows and films, and I watched all of those and loved them.
And have you completed the entire canon yet? Have you watched everything Star Trek yet, or are you on your journey?
Everything apart from Voyager and the animated series.
Oh, fantastic! How
That's
exciting!
your homework for next week. Animated
Yeah,
series. Straight
that's
on.
true.
Animated series, yeah. You can skip Voyager. It's all right.
We
No,
really appreciate
Voyager. You should watch Voyager too. Gosh, I'm as a big Voyager fan. Yes, go Voyager.
We really appreciate your perspective, Robbie, and we hope you'll come back on in future episodes. And I'm glad you're discovering the original series with us and watching along. And then I personally didn't like Voyager. I'm watching it now and I'm enjoying it very much. And then I also have to give Enterprise a chance, which I never gave it.
Yes.
I used to dislike Deep Space Nine after watching The Next Generation, and I used to think
I
it
had
was
a similar.
awful. And it's only after I rewatched it that I realized it's the best series, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's pretty much objectively the best series. I have to give it that. It's not my favorite. My favorite is TNG. That's why we started the Starfleet Boys series with TNG, but it is objectively the best series. Although here's Trek on the Tube Voyager. What is the
Voyager's the
It's the
best
best
track.
track.
I need to have a conversation with Trek on the Tube about how, like, I know he makes a big deal about like Star Trek, like following like the continuity and like adhering to like, oh, if you establish something in canon, you keep up with that. And Star Trek Voyager is like one of the worst shows at doing that. So it's perplexing that that's his favorite.
I'm with him. I love it.
I
Blindfoldedly.
like all of. I like every Star Trek show, but I mean, like, that just seems like such a contradiction. I'm kind of intrigued by it.
Interesting. What do you got to promote this week, Father? We promote something together, which we did another successful TQIF Friday.
Yes. Every Friday night, hashtag TQIF. You can check out Text Trek. We discussed the latest episode of Star Trek Lower Decks. We're going to continue that into Star Trek Discovery Season 3. And then after our deep dive analysis of the episode, we kick back and relax on Starfleet Boy After Dark. So you have a back-to-back lineup, TQIF, every Friday night at 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central. I said both of our
Which
times.
features Ponfar.
Oh.
Yes,
You might see some Ponfar. Who knows what's going to happen?
So you guys gonna have to do the next Faltor punning virtually.
Have to do what?
The next
Faltor
Faltor,
pun.
that's
Star
when you
Trek
transfer a mind,
Free.
when you
Star
transfer
Trek free.
someone's mind
Yeah.
into their previously dead body from another person, from their Katra.
You know the
It's
ending Star Trek free. Don't mind
We
me.
can do it.
Faltor. We will do Faltor.
I don't know where we're getting the corpse, but we're gonna do it.
You're in a perfect position to be the priestess. I can be dead Spock, and
Oh, he's gonna like switch our Katras.
our Katras. Here we go. There we go.
No, you know, I'm afraid that between the transfer, my head gonna be messed up.
That's why it can only be performed by Dame Judith Anderson, who is a goddess. Anyways, it's true. Father, did you finish promoting everything?
Yeah. So the TQIF, and you can also catch the Text Trek podcast in an audio format available every Sunday.
Excellent. Woohoo! And then occasionally you'll do a special episode like we did last week, which is very.
What is this TQIF? I've seen it on Twitter, but I have no idea what does that mean.
I'm glad you asked, Gary.
Thank you. It's Friday.
Thank you. It's Friday.
Oh.
There used to be
So the
on
Q
ABC
is you. Oh my!
Well, on
Here, I'll put it up
I'm
on the
so
screen.
uneducated.
there used to be a thing in the United States on Friday nights on TV called
TGIF.
TGIF.
Yeah. Must watch TV, and so we call it must watch YouTube.
Yeah.
But anyways, it's TGIF originally stood for Thank God It's Friday, and then later it was changed to Thank Goodness It's Friday to make it more accessible to
And
non-believers.
invited to bring in John Delancey. Yes.
And we're bringing John Delancey in. We Q-ified it, and so it's called TQIF. Which
Are you getting a lot of QAnon followers who are confused?
I hope not, but if we do, we will try.
Try to reform them.
Yes, we will try our best. And then, Gary, what do you got to promote, sir? A lot of things.
Not a lot of things. No,
Which, by the way,
what?
this is the first time you're on the show. I just want to congratulate you because I really loved the fact that you got Alice Kriege on your podcast. She's delightful.
Yeah, that was awesome.
very, very,
love
very
that.
cool. Yeah, super, super cool that you landed
Thank you.
her. So excellent.
No, the honor is really mine. Yeah, it was a lot of organizing, just as Robert Picardo and everyone else. Really, I mean, I tend not to do favorites, and everyone is special in the podcast. So, I'm
Gary's talking
extremely
about
lucky that I was able to interview her. She's a very nice lady to talk to for sure. But if you listen to the podcast, you know that already.
And the podcast is called Warm Blanket. You can check it out on iTunes or however you listen to podcasts. I guess it's on everything, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's almost everywhere in your favorite podcasting platform, and you can go to trackerprice.com.
Oh, and-
The episode is actually listed on
Um,
the website too. So go on.
Trekker Price is having a live stream tomorrow.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Season 1 of Deep Space Nine. We're going to talk about
revisiting season 1 of Deep Space Nine.
Nice.
Talking about the whole season in general, it's going to be hopefully not that awkward because I'm just gonna be myself talking to the camera essentially and reading the comments. It's like gonna be my second big what is it, live stream? So everything is a bit awkward at the moment.
What time is that live stream, Gary?
6:30 British summertime PM in the afternoon. So
1:30 for you, so hell.
4:40
thank
for
you.
you, and then
It'd be 12:30 for me.
12:40 for you, and then probably 10 something in the Pacific Coast or even earlier.
Texas is 6 hours behind the Queen.
By
And
the
I
way,
think-
last night on Text Track, we realized that there's no Starfleet captain of prominent note on screen from Texas, and I nominated Robert Appleby retconned to be a Texan. So I hope you guys will agree with that as well. So that's something we're going to tweet about.
Doesn't really match his accent from
His British accent.
the counterclock incident in the animated series.
Well, that's why I said retcon. I think we have to figure out a way to retcon it. So Starfleet Boy, to end, thank you again, audience, and you guys for coming on board. This was a very fun discussion. I give this discussion a 10. You can tune into Starfleet Boy TOS discussion every Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can listen to Trek on the Tube and I talk about Star Trek Lower Decks, and we react. Basically, it's just after we've had a day to just not even a day to think about it, we get on and we just shoot the breeze about it, and then we do a detailed analysis. And on Text Trek on Fridays, as we already mentioned, as part of TQIF and Starfleet Boy After Dark. So there's a lot of streams out there. Also, audience, thank you so much for participating. We love your comments. So please let us know what you thought of this episode of the original series. And thank you everyone for participating. There were a lot of cool conversations going on about Raised by Wolves, which I was kind of jealous that I couldn't really put them into this conversation. We try to keep it, for posterity's sake, but I was like, oh my gosh. So go watch Raised by Wolves, everyone. And on that note, live long and prosper. And we'll see you